When people doubted you in the past, what they doubted was that they saw themselves in you, and they were projecting how they didn't think they could do it on you. And that's the voice that they use when they talk to themselves. When someone supports you, they see your greatness, they see their greatness, and that's the voice that they use to talk to themselves. Everything is a projection of how we see ourselves. And so, understanding that when you're communicating with people is a real way to understand when someone's telling you something. The challenge there is to understand that they're talking to themselves through you, and that you're talking to yourself through them. And everything is oneness, really. And that when you hear challenging things, that's the part of you that doubts. And the question is, are you going to listen to that? Or are you going to pay attention to what you know to be true? And whatever you put attention on, that's what's going to grow. So, so when you have people around you that are saying that they don't think that you can do it, that's where you have the opportunity to look at yourself and think, there is a part of me that thinks that too, but I am not going to focus on that part. I'm going to focus on the part of me that does think I can do it. And I'm going to give that to others. I'm going to encourage others as well. Regarding men and women relationships, Don Johnson said something very interesting here. He says, it takes more strength to submit than to lead. The neck is stronger than the head. And men, being the head of the household in a traditional sense, often have this feeling in themselves that they need to do everything themselves. And Simon Sinek says you have to delegate or you die. Because yes, a man is capable of doing many things, but unless that man is able to, with his choices and his speech, delegate and say, this is what needs to get done. Either can you help with this, or I need you to help with this. The things won't get done. And choosing a partner that can do those things of her own accord is also very helpful as well. Having the neck be stronger than the head is a concept which means that, yeah, maybe the head is doing all of the decision making. Maybe the head is the one that's looking around and assessing and seeing the vision for things. Maybe the head is the thing that is going forward first, and then the neck is following. But the neck is ultimately the thing that is supporting the head. And I don't know any man in a marriage or in a relationship that is able to do everything by themselves. I don't know any man that has only 100% masculine energy just by themselves. They have some feminine energy, and that feminine energy is the encouraging and supportive part of him, the thing that can allow him to laugh and say, well, just try again later. That's the feminine part. That's making that man be balanced. And in the relationship, the feminine part, the neck, the neck is very elegant. The neck is the one that's supporting. The neck is stronger than the head because the neck is supporting the head overall. And so for a lot of women, it's discussed now in modern media that it's not good to submit. It's not good to be the weaker person in the relationship by doing what the man says. But the concept of weak is a branding strategy, basically, to promote individualism. And that makes great consumers. It makes twice as many consumers because everybody has to buy their own thing separately. You need two sets of everything. So really what we're talking about here is we're talking about, do you have the strength as a woman to actually choose a man that you know can lead you well? And do you have a strength as a man to lead a woman. In the past, we have needed different things at different times. But right now, we can't give someone what they used to need. And this is very important to understand, that if things worked in your relationship before, and you know that someone needed support during a challenging time, they might not always need that the same way. And especially if someone's not asking for something now, it might not be good to give it to them, because you're operating in a framework of, oh, well, this worked before. But if someone's telling you, hey, right now I need whatever it is, space or silence or support, it's not good to assume, oh, well, I know this person like this. We've been together for a long time. It might need something different now. And the only way you'll find out that is by observing and asking questions and trying things out, and then seeing what the feedback is. If you choose not to be around for what someone can develop into, who someone can develop into in their life, then somebody else is going to benefit from that. It's going to benefit from all of the hard work that you put in to get this person to where they're at now. And you might not like the fact that they're not at the finish line. They're not their final version now. And so really what that requires patience. It requires being able to love someone through their brokenness for long enough to really understand that you too are broken sometimes, and you need support and you need encouragement. And that's what a good relationship is about. But you can't give up on somebody just because they haven't gotten to that place yet. Because in truth, there is no final form, really. Everybody is always evolving. So really it just takes understanding and presence and patience. And if someone gives up on themselves, that's on them. There's not much you can do about that. But if you give up on them, that's on you. The role of the feminine, I need you all to understand, both men and women. I need you to understand the role of the feminine is very powerful. It's not this meek thing that is just sitting around like wanting to be cuddly all day long. The role of the feminine is very powerful, because the feminine is the one that can change the masculine. And the masculine is very powerful, but masculine goes head to head with masculine. And so masculine just wants to defeat other masculine, but feminine comes along and complements masculine, which means that the one that can actually balance out the power is the masculine. That's why the feminine is so powerful. So the way to understand, the way to put this into action is that the feminine praises the masculine for what the masculine is doing, and then there is balance. So, there is a definitely a little person inside of each of us. That's like the kid that hasn't quite grown up. There's a little girl inside of every woman and a little boy inside of every man, and each of those little kids that still needs some support and still needs healing, that they need to be celebrated. Just somebody to say, oh, that was amazing, great work. We can't just treat everything like the seriousness. Even though we grow into adulthood, we can't treat everything with the seriousness of, oh, it should have been this way and it should have done that. It has to be still stay fun, still stay playful, because the whole world is challenging. All the bills and all of the construction and all of the maintenance and the transportation and all of the money and all of the things in the world, they're challenging and they're masculine. And the challenges already beat men up everywhere. And the feminine is so playful and lovely that that's how men will be reinvigorated and re-inspired to succeed. And they need that feminine energy to remember to play, to remember to just randomly do a dance party, to remember to take time to breathe, to do things that are not logical sometimes. They're purely emotional and just purely celebratory of life, because the masculine is always thinking about challenges, always thinking about success and achieving more. And his body is his business. Those are built through his masculine expression of challenge. And going to the gym and saying, one more. Going to the sales room and saying, one more call. All of those things are trying to get more in a masculine way. But the feminine way is more of laughter, of smiles, of warmth and comfort. And so the feminine will help the masculine grow through praise. So the typical thing for men who've had mothers who have criticized them has been that they, in reaction, have shrunken down and felt like they have too much masculine energy coming towards them, because they already have a dad, let's say, who's challenging them, and they also have a mom that's challenging them. That won't work. Or if they don't have a dad, then the mother assumes more of a masculine role, and so she comes and challenges. But can the mother actually dig into the feminine and support in a feminine way, so that the man actually has that reservoir of feminine love and encouragement? And a lot of times, if the man doesn't have that father that is challenging him in the masculine way, so that the feminine can love into him in a feminine way, the man will choose a partner that's a bit more masculine, because that's all he's known in his relationship with a woman. But you won't get a point across as a woman to a man by raising your voice and criticizing him. You only get that point across by speaking in a loving, encouraging way, asking questions, or saying how you want to support him, or that you care about him, or even just giving him the benefit of making the decision by giving him options based on what worked for you in a loving way. Like, hey, I would love to do this. Well, which one would work for you? And then he would actually be able to, in a masculine way, make the decision. And yeah, you can dig into your masculine, you can push for things. But what that's going to do is, if he gets into his feminine, then you're going to become reversely attracted to each other, because the feminine is the receiving and the masculine is the penetrating. And so if you go and you start getting all penetrating, then in order to make that relationship work, he's going to get into his receiving. But that reverses the polarity of how men and women would be attracted. And so that won't lead to that same sexual dynamic that you would want in a relationship. That would just lead to you guys becoming more like buddies, or like him being more like one of your girlfriends if you're a woman, or you feeling more like emasculated if you're a man, and feeling like, oh, well, I don't really have any place to say anything and speak my mind because she's already pushing so much. Let me retreat. But that's not going to lead to being able to have that healthy long-term relationship, most likely with sex, which is probably what y'all want with each other. Otherwise, you'd just be hanging out with your buddies. So eventually, if you're a woman and you're wanting your man to settle in, he will. Everybody evolves. And the question is, can you be patient? Can you be around to see that? And as a man, can you be patient with yourself to grow? And can you be patient with her and wait for her to figure out how to be that feminine essence for herself as well? Men will develop into the father eventually. They have that capacity inside of them. Even if they never were trained, they have that capacity. It just takes time. The world is wild and will train someone on how to be balanced with enough time, if that man is actually focused on developing themselves. And so for some men, they figure out how to be a father early through challenges. Some men, it takes them to be 55. And if you're a woman and you want to know my advice on how to choose You got to vote with your womb. You got to choose men to have sex with that you think would make good fathers. Give the opportunity to become a father to a man that seems like they would be a father. And you would only really know that over time. To make that choice over a long period of time after you've seen what kind of man this guy is and what kind of challenges he's able to make it through. You can't pick the fruit before it's ripe. You gotta, going back to plants, if you have a seed that hasn't fully developed, you get the small little fruits. They're bitter. If you rush it, you're gonna get bitter fruit. You gotta be patient because there might be a few more seasons before you get to see the fruit of your labor. If you've been pouring in love and watering this plant every day, even coconut trees, they take 10 years before they even produce one coconut. So you got to make sure, as a woman, I'm talking to women now, you got to make sure that you choose men that will be everything for you, spiritually, financially, physically, that they can impregnate you, not just with the baby, but they can impregnate you with the right thoughts, because they'll pour into you and they will give you everything that they have, all of the love that they have, they will give to you. And that's why men share their resources with women, and that's why men share their thoughts. And I know it might not be popular, this idea of men explaining things to women. It's gotten this branding recently called mansplaining. But truthfully, this is like the man's way of loving, because otherwise they would just go and build themselves up. Otherwise they would just go and hang out with their buddies. But men's way of loving is to feel like, oh, I have something that I would like to share. I want to talk about something that I feel like would strengthen this person, and I'm going to pour into you through the love, because that is how God gets to us. Is God gets to us through pouring love into us. So when you're thinking about building a family, what you're thinking about generations. You're thinking about, how can you walk together for generations to come? What person can I choose right now that will support the future of my family? On and on and on. And if you don't know who that person is right now, it might be because you don't know who you are. And so it's hard for you to choose someone else because you don't know what to look for, because you haven't looked for those qualities inside of yourself. Maybe you're not ready to be a parent, or maybe you're not ready to be a partner yourself. And that can be a challenging thing to hear, because you might think that you're ready, but you only be ready when you know how to choose the right partner, when you know how to handle the right partner by communicating with that person what you want. And you chose someone in the past, so you might be in a relationship, and maybe you forgot that you were smart enough back then to have known certain stuff about yourself to have chosen this person. And so it might be to relearn and to get back in touch with yourself about the things that made you choose this person if you're already in a relationship. Everybody struggles with some sort of abandonment, whether it's that their parents didn't love them in the way that they wanted to be loved, or their friends stopped writing to them when they needed them the most. Everybody struggles with abandonment. And the only thing we can really do for the people that we love and want to be with is support them, encourage them. When a man is very successful in his business, it can be difficult for his partner to feel secure that he is interested in her as much as he's interested in his business. He's always working, he's always trying to generate masculine success. And it can be difficult to understand that he cares about her if he's focused on this. But in truth, really, he's expressing his love for her by doing his business to the extent that he is, because that is the way a man wants to show his love, through the resources that he knows that he can provide. Because truthfully, I think deep down for every man, they would really like their woman to not feel like they have to work. Sure, we want you to be involved in something that you like to do. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm